All right, man. So we got some breaking news here. So we have our first poll that takes into account any field dates that include the debate. So there's a new poll coming out from SoCal Strategies. They're a right-wing pollster. They're really, really bad. They're actually a really bad pollster. I think they might be. There's like some siblings of like the trash pollsters that came out at the end of 2022 and just flooded the market. Coefficient, Wick, Patriot Polling, Insider Advantage, Trafalgar, all garbage pollsters. There's some like spry strategies in SoCal that might be like siblings or something, but they're related, maybe step siblings or something. I don't know. But we have this new general election poll. It says Harris 48% plus 3, Donald Trump 45%. This does seem to kind of chalk with what's probably going on right now. I think a lot of voters still don't know who Kamala Harris is. And then Trump is consistently not really, he doesn't do super well in national polling, generally speaking. And he's not like he's a pluralistic victor, right? He's not a majoritarian victor. And then we have, it says the last poll, 818, was Harris plus 2. So it was like 3 weeks ago. And so she surged up 1 point in this first debate that we have that actually takes into account any times with the debate. And so it's a bit of a wombo combo poll because they also have a poll asking the question, who won the debate? And so it says Harris plus 19, which is a decent margin, but we're going to kind of get into the numbers of the polls in terms of the debate numbers as well. So it's coming from SoCal to right-wing pollster, 719 likely voters, 911. And so we can see here in terms of looking at the field dates, you can see it's September 10th through 11th. So it did include the debate day. And so there's our first post-debate poll that we have here. Or poll that has taken into account the debate involved. And so they have Harris plus 19, which is a big deal for the debate because they're obviously a right-wing pollster, right? Now, what we also have is we have some CNN numbers that came out. These are considered usually sort of like the holy grail of polling numbers when it comes to debate responses. So let's go ahead and check out to see how did Kamala Harris do actually, during the debate according to the poll. So here's what we have. So we have this here. So September 10th, 2024. So it says, regardless of which presidential candidate you support, who do you think is likely to do a better job in the upcoming presidential debate was this pre-debate question that were asked. And here it says, so for September 10th, this is post-debate, it was 63% in favor of Harris and 37% in favor of Donald Trump. So a 26-point margin, which is pretty large. That's a pretty massive margin, it looks like, in the numbers. But we'll kind of get more in depth here. Now, the biggest thing to notice, I think, here is the shift that happened from the expected value. So the viewers expected that it was going to be 50% for each, but what ended up happening is a 13-point margin in her favor and a 13-point margin away from Trump. That is, I think, the most significant thing here, more so than what's going on with the actual margin in terms of the numbers, because what we can see here is when we look at the old polls, this kind of chalks at around, if not worse, then actually it's worse usually than the first debates. Typically, we're kind of comparing this as a first debate, even though technically it's a second one. Of course, Biden, did horribly. It was 33-67 in favor of Donald Trump, of course. But Trump didn't win that debate. It was just that Biden had lost it. But if we look at the first debate back in 2020, we see Biden actually got 60%, which is lower than what Harris had. But Trump only got 28%. So Trump has a 9-point increase versus Harris's 3-point increase, so that's a margin of -6 in comparison. So she's actually done worse than Joe Biden did, or than Joe Biden's debate performance back in 2020, the first one. In the second one, however, she did better than the second one, but we should compare debates by which ones they were because strategies are going to alter. And so typically Trump does perform better in the second debates, even against Hillary, likely because he comes off as a big douchebag and then he kind of reels it in a little bit. Or people just kind of get used to it. And once they see it for the first time, they're like, whoa. Like, I was definitely really shocked at what happened. But they probably kind of become numb to it. And then we can also check. She did solid against Pence as well, 59-38. She did really well amongst women. And so another thing I'm looking for also is how well did Kamala Harris do amongst women voters, right? That's her strength. The gender gap is widening. And I remember reading from the CNN poll what it said was it was about 70-30 split in favor of Harris amongst women voters, but amongst males it was closer to half and half. So can Donald Trump appeal to any women voters? I don't see how it's possible given how insane and much of a lunatic he was during the debate, but that'll tell us a lot about what's going to happen in this election. Even though if we go back, a lot of people don't realize this, Trump got demolished in every single general election debate. So In the first debate, it was 62 to 27. So again, significantly worse performance from Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, because Trump did 10% better, but only Kamala did 1% better. So it's a 9 minus margin, right? So significantly worse than Hillary Clinton did in 2016 for the first debate. And the second debate is 57-34, so better performance. But again, we want to compare in the permutation of the debates. But a lot of people don't remember this. Trump got his ass kicked in all of the debates in 2016. He just had kind of those sound bites, but the truth is usually debates don't really have much of an impact on anything, is really the truth of the matter. So what happened is, in the debate, Kamala Harris, of course, right, what she was trying to do, she was trying to rise above. This is her strategy, right? Hillary, I think, was more of like, hey, you're going to sling mud, I'm going to go at your level and sling mud. So I'm going to say all your supporters, half your supporters are like a basket of deplorables or whatever, misogynist, sexist, racist, etc. And then that proved to be very divisive, right? And so she never did that rise above strategy. She kind of made it about her gender versus, I'm sort of the feminist, he's sort of the racist. Kamala's not doing that. Kamala's strategy is, I'm going to rise above everything. Race, gender, color, creed. I don't gaff. Like, I don't care. I'm rising above. Everybody's welcome here. Any race, any gender. Notice she's not, like, disparaging his supporters in any way, even if it's warranted. Again, I wasn't saying that Hillary was wrong in what she said, but just in terms of the strategy position, right? So I thought she let too much go in terms of just letting him say lies that she should have hammered him on. Like, he got way let off on the border bill. She could have asked him, questions more so about, like, pressing him on not responding on various questions, like about, how are you actually going to solve, Russia, or what is your plan for Obamacare, these kinds of things. Then she also let the Marxist thing go, and there was a lot of stuff, I reacted to the debate live. However, that was a function of her strategy. Her strategy was, I'm going to rise above. The opportunity cost of rising above, though, is you're going to lose those stones you could have slung if you were at the bottom. But you're above, so you can't just sling the stones anymore, right? You can only drop, like, little droplets, basically. And so that was her situation. So she projected that her best turn, given that Donald Trump was going to turn into a complete fucking maniac, like he was unfathomably insane, that he was crazy, right? Insane, denying the 2020 election results, lying out of his ass, refusing to answer a single question, just going complete insane. She thought, okay, that's his move, so hey, my best payoff, like this Nash equilibrium, is going to be for me to rise above instead of like mudslinging, was her strategy, right? A Nash equilibrium would obviously require like Trump's payoff to also be unable to be increased if he chose a different move, so which is probably not true. Trump would have been better off if he had done something else. But anyways, you get the point that I'm trying to make, right? Her best move in response to that was, hey, let me go with this strategy, right? So the strategy worked in terms of, like, I think the debate's impact was sort of a conditional or maybe like a piecewise function. It was like the debate probably wasn't going to boost, it probably would have really hurt Harris. I think that was the biggest fear. It probably wasn't going to hurt Trump that much, but the big thing was the debate was probably going to hurt Harris because she's an unknown quantity right now. She's new to the game, and so a lot of people are still forming their opinions on her. Also, there was a lot of opportunity involved for Kamala Harris to increase her support because she was an unknown quantity. I don't think she did that. So in my opinion, she may have made Trump look bad, but the core problem still exists. Why would a voter ever vote for Kamala Harris independent of anything to do with Donald Trump? So it's like, the probability of K given D needs to equal the probability of K. If you erase Donald Trump from your memory, what is the reason you would vote for Kamala Harris? There is none. Anything she supports, any other normal Democrat's going to support. She spent like half her time on the climate change, and I'm not going against her on this because obviously it's a general election or whatever, but she spent half her time on climate change defending fracking. It was just like, there's not anything to be excited about her for. And so the core problem still remains. Why would anyone vote for Kamala Harris independent of Donald Trump? And there's no answer to that question still. And her performance was worse than all of the other people who were trying to run against Donald Trump. So you got to be careful here. If your strategy is going to be, I'm rising above, and you might say, oh, she's rising above, that's why you're going to vote for her. No, that's not independent of Trump, because we know if she wasn't running against Trump, her strategy is likely going to change. It would not be to rise above. The reason why she is doing the rise above strategy is because she's running against Trump. So she has to find something independent of Donald Trump. Like, you would support Bernie Sanders for Medicare for All, for example, independent of anybody. We don't give a fuck who it is, right? It's just Bernie Sanders supports Medicare for All. That's it. That's why I would vote for him. Huge reason why. There's a bunch of other reasons as well, right? But there just lacks that reason to vote for Harris, and she did not prove to a single human being, not a single voter out there, that is true. So don't get tricked by these numbers, because debates don't have much of an impact on the race. However, I think the big opportunities here were Harris gets a big boost or she loses a lot, right? Neither of those happened. Neither of those happened. She didn't lose a lot. She also didn't gain a lot. Trump got hurt, but his performance is better than in 2020 in the first time and in 2016. So she better not fall into the trap that, hey, I can just run against Donald Trump. You cannot just run against Donald Trump. If you do that, this is not 2020. In 2020, this might work. We're in 2024. If you run that strategy, you will fail. And she has done worse in this debate compared to the prior times because Trump's margin is Trump's percentage share is much higher. 37 versus 28, almost a 10-point increase. She only boosted on Biden 3%. And then, Trump's numbers from 2016, even worse, it was 27%. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just 10 whole percent, right? So it's not a really good performance in that method. Now, given the strategy that she chose, could she have done more? She's trying to find the first order condition of attacking Trump on things that he says while also rising above. So it's kind of hard to find that first order condition because you're not just trying to max out, let me attack him as much as possible. That's not your strategy, right? Now, we can also check out some other polling numbers as well that relate to specifically the debate that have come out from various pollsters. So we have a YouGov poll. This is actually a really great one, I think. Honestly, this is beautiful. So it says, who won the debate? This is YouGov. It says, Harris 43, Trump 28, unsure 30%. And this is a really great response, I feel like, because, again, we still have unsure 30%. And so this is going to be, Kamala Harris did not give a single soul a reason to vote for her. There's no reason. When I watched that debate, I was infuriated with Donald Trump. I was terrified. I was very angry. And I would definitely be voting against Donald Trump. And I was more motivated to vote against Trump. But there was not a single fucking second in the debate where I was like, man, this is why I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. It was always, holy shit, I need to get rid of Trump ASAP. This guy's a fucking lunatic. And it really started to break down when he's still denying the 2020 election results, which I don't even see as in his best interest in terms of running a general election campaign. Why would you not just accept the result at this point? It's hurting your campaign. That makes me think that he might actually genuinely believe it. Otherwise, it's not even in his best interest to do so. That's not a Nash equilibrium, right? So this is a great example, though. I think this is really good because it tells us there was not a single reason to vote for Kamala Harris. So she better figure this shit out. You got to figure out how to appeal to voters and explain to them why to vote for you, not just, hey, Trump is bad. 28% to 43 here. So, obviously a much smaller margin, only 15% here in favor of Harris, far, far smaller. But I think this is probably more accurate, though, because it includes this unsure category. And so a lot of people are still going to be like, man, like, Trump looks crazy, but Harris is just like, I'm not really motivated to vote for her or anything like that. And then there was one more, too. We have a Trafalgar poll as well. So Trafalgar, another Dookie tier pollster that came out, they're terrible. So Harris 55, Trump 43. So it's pretty unanimous that Harris came out victorious. I think the internet is way over boosting how much Harris won by, just because the polling doesn't seem to really, like, we saw the poll with the YouGov ones, and then also the CNN poll as well, where she did a lot worse than Hillary and Biden both did in 2016 and 2020. So I think Kamala did not win the debate. I think Trump lost the debate. Again, did Kamala do well in her strategy? Sure. But it's kind of like, imagine someone told you your job was to just stand next to a wall and do nothing. And then, you do your job really well. It's like, oh, you did a great job. It almost sounds kind of paradoxical because you did something great, but you did nothing at the same time, right? It's kind of like, how do you do something nothing great, right? So I guess if in that way you mean great, sure. But she did nothing. Not a scintilla of a reason was there to vote for Kamala Harris. It does not exist. Okay, it doesn't exist. So she has to figure that out. And so if she gets complacent with what she's doing and she runs this strategy again, especially because Trump is going to change up his strategy, I think. He's not going to be this blundering piece of dog shit that he was in this debate. He's going to try to come off more like kind of acceptable. He already did this at the 9/11 memorial. He went, shaked her hand. I think he went and shaked her hand in the debate in the beginning. She goes to him and shakes his hand. She really kind of set the tone with that, like, I'm the alpha dog. Like, she kind of set the tone there, I felt like, because she went up to him and shook his hand. It was like, he's like slouched over and she's kind of standing straight. It's like, oh, okay. Like, she's kind of trying to set the tone. But I think he's already like, shoot, I need to become like more I can't say that, they're eating the dogs. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say that kind of thing. So she better not fall into this trap, okay? Because we can see there's a clear monotonically decreasing sequence for second debates. Trump always does better in the second debate than in the first debate in 2020 and in 2016 by very heavy margins, because not only does he boost up, but the opponent goes down. So you better be ready, and you got to figure out how do you get voters to vote for you, because you didn't do it in this debate. You did not do it in this debate.